Hi everyone, my name is Michael.
And my name is Ellie.
And my name is Kate, and this is our final presentation where we spent time analyzing the Castler site.
These are the top 10 metrics that we aim to address in our design. The design intent behind the Wellness Center is to preserve and celebrate the culture and tribal identity of the Burns Paiute tribe, to support the healthy development and wellness of the community, and to protect the rights and resources of the tribe. This design will be enjoyed by users within as well as people passing by through the integration of thresholds, shade, varying forms of light, and connection to nature with the application of eco-social and eco-medical logic. Incorporating nature directly into the design and vice versa will allow the architecture to blend into the landscape and not negatively impact the surrounding ecosystems. Providing healthy spaces to promote community gatherings and human connection along with safe and private areas is vital. A series of flexible spaces that occur interior, exterior, and somewhere in between is needed to address the diverse needs of individuals as well as the community as a whole. In our site plan, we call out various site programming, site accessories, and aspects of cultural preservation. Our 5 goals are to provide healthy, mixed-use spaces to improve the quality of life for all tribal members, increase the financial self-sufficiency of the tribe through net zero and sustainable building design dynamic infrastructure to support community growth, create an accessible environment for community members to work, learn, and receive aid, and to strengthen tribal sovereignty by conserving natural resources and preserve the tribe's culture.
The Castler site offers a wide variety of resources that encourage the well-being of both people and the environment. The site is made up of a wide, open desert-like land that is surrounded by views of nearby mountains, including easy access to the Silvies River. Surrounding the site are major monuments of the Paiute tribe, including the Tribe Center, Rainbow Park, Paiute Cemetery, and the Natural Resources Department. We can incorporate these surrounding resources into the design of our wellness center by exploring opportunities for unique viewing spaces, water reuse systems, and cultural connections to the Paiute tribe. Now looking at the climate of the Castler site, we can see that the wind travels through the site from the northwest, which we can use to our advantage when considering cross-ventilation in our wellness center. Similarly, the sun travels through our site from the east to the west, providing us with opportunities to incorporate unique daylighting and shading strategies within our wellness center. One of the Burns Paiute tribe's values is community pride and prosperity, as they prioritize the needs of their people through a variety of ways, including the expansion of the reservation. With this in mind, the Castler site has great design freedom and a strong connection to nature. Part of this site occupies the American Indian reservation land that belongs to the Paiute tribe, which we must be aware of when designing our wellness center, as we must maintain that land preservation. The Kessler site is also surrounded by a lot of rangeland and crop areas, containing very little built areas around the site. This being said, the Kessler site is not walkable. However, it is very accessible by car and somewhat accessible by bike. There is very little human footprint surrounding the site. Therefore, there is very little noise and distractions from other buildings and transportation, as the site is secluded from the main city of Burns and lacks busy roads. Considering this information, the Kessler site must engage with the Burns Paiute tribe to effectively create a wellness center that maintains cultural and environmental connections as a way to draw users to the site. Preserving the land and environment of the Kessler site is extremely important to the Burns Paiute tribe community. There are various indicators associated with health, climate, and the environment that our wellness center will affect. Our wellness center will strive to be designed for minimal environmental impact and promote long-term ecological health. This can be achieved by providing access to various green spaces, investing in infrastructure that is energy efficient, and reducing waste and minimizing pollution, as well as incorporating elements of local culture and history into the design to foster a sense of place and belonging. We can draw from the native plants occupying the site and surrounding buildings throughout Burns, allowing our wellness center to emphasize the already existing infrastructure and join the Paiute tribe community.
One measure for well-being is the connection to nature. Based on the lead credit for views, the proposed massing achieves a direct line of sight to the outdoors via glazing on a majority of the facades. The views present are unobstructed and occur in all four directions. Flora, fauna, and sky are present in all views as well. Movement within the views comes from the designed exterior nodes to be used by the community. The visuals on this slide show the different views available in all four directions, as well as other views around the local area. Diving deeper into the site analysis for our wellness center, the building's design must prioritize the well-being of the occupants. This can be achieved through maximizing ventilation and light. A building that is ventilated well, which can be achieved through various mechanical systems and cross ventilation, will result in optimal thermal comfort and air quality. The use of expansive windows provides users with a connection to the views of the surrounding land, just as light wells and skylights bring natural light into the space. One of the main components of the material palette is cedar siding as it preserves the surrounding climate and environment, is easily accessible, and provides renewable energy. The architecture of our wellness center promotes movement through the use of outdoor areas, terraces, a variety of stair options, and flexible workspaces. The site surrounding the wellness center will provide opportunities for social interaction and physical activity, encouraged by communal gardens, walking and bike pathways, and movable furniture, enhancing the well-being of users as they occupy this center. Based on this material data gathered from bees, the material that will be the best to use is cedar siding, as I mentioned previously. This material offers a low impact on the climate and environment, has an average economic value, and provides renewable energy. Out of all the materials explored, cedar siding has the best environmental performance, which is very important for the location of our wellness center. We must choose materials that will not negatively impact the preserved land around our site. We oriented the buildings on the site 30 degrees clockwise in order to create better cross ventilation through each building, since the winds are mostly coming from the northeast throughout the year, as Kate mentioned earlier. We designed the fins to be oriented directly south on the facades to help light enter the building during winter months and to provide some light dilution during the summer months. The clerestory windows on the western facades have a light shelf to provide light protection on the western and southern fronts while still allowing adequate light to reach inside the buildings on the northern facades.
So now looking at what our approach was for designing for energy and water, with our ways that we wanted to design for energy, we came up with three main goals that we're looking at, and that would be ways to design for new and renewable energy, designing for energy saving and storage, and passive and sustainable design. And so when looking at the new and renewable energy, we're looking at ways that we could have building integrated photovoltaics, which could be either on rooftops in the form of solar panels, having different aspects of the facades, and also externally integrated elements as louvers and shading devices. And we're also looking at ways of reusing water in the form of water catchment and storage, and where we could place storage tanks either on the exterior of buildings or ways of using them underground, and then looking at the energy and saving storage. Some of the strategies we wanted to use were thermal storage walls, which could be used with larger masonry type walls that could have this threshold of space between larger facades of glazing. And then we're looking at different options for solar shading, and with the knowledge of their site having wind patterns coming from the northeast, we're looking at different options of having cross ventilation. And for our passive and sustainable design, we're looking at the option of having a green roof, which could either be extensive, semi-intensive, or intensive. And we're looking at, with a larger site as the Castro site, we're looking at water smart landscape systems where we can basically look at ways at recycling water and making use of native plants from the area that may be a little bit more drought resistant for the need to not need to irrigate water and provide more water, excessive water than would be needed. And we're looking at within our buildings indirect gain sun spaces, which could be integrated with various different courtyards within the spaces. So also looking at energy, the tools that we use, this zero tool shows us that new construction of commercial buildings with mixed uses typically have a zero score of 100 in similar areas to Burns, Oregon. This means that there is no energy reduction for buildings fitting these conditions. In order to reach our target zero score of 80, we must reduce the baseline score by 20%, which would also provide our building with a 20% energy reduction rate. Looking closer at our site, we can see that the EUI for this area is 55, which makes our target zero score of 80 more attainable for our wellness center. When designing our wellness center, we must find ways in which we can reduce the energy usage and ultimately lower the generated EUI for our site in order to reach our target zero score. And also, once again, looking at the water, different ways that we could recycle water, or we can harvest water by, as mentioned, different ways of taking it either from rain, water runoff, and collecting it in the storage tanks. We can look at ways that our water is being consumed. So maybe making use of low and full flush toilets, and as previously mentioned, smart irrigation systems that regulate the amount of water usage. And this was another look at some of the calculations that we had in estimating how much water would be used around the site for various landscaped areas, whether that be maybe some communal gardens or areas of gathering, social spaces. Looking at a model where you would see with where the sun goes throughout our site and the way that it's oriented on our site, which areas of the building would be getting the greatest amount of sunlight and where we would see the largest areas of heat gain. Now, looking at how we're going to design for resources, what materials we're going to choose, we're looking at using light wood construction, mostly because from an economical standpoint, it would be more affordable, and also with there being forests nearby, it would be a good way to locally source materials for us to use during construction. And another idea that we had was maybe the use of rammed earth construction, and being that there'll probably be some excavation on our site, or there'll be different ways to repurpose the local material that will be used and not only create um, aesthetically pleasing facades, and but it would be a good way to recycle all materials and make sure that we reduce the amount of waste that would be used during construction. And this is kind of some of the ideas that we would have, looking at some different precedents of ways that we could detail within our construction. So the one on the left would be a model of how we could integrate wood framing with rammed earth walls, and then looking at different strategies of integrating light wood construction with larger glazing wall or glazed facade walls, and also looking at how we would approach wood frame construction with a green roof.
The Wellness Center by ELM Architects brings the surrounding environment into the interior of the building by creating openings in the interior space. It also uses large doors that can open and expand the interior space to the outdoor spaces, ultimately furthering the connection to nature and views. Similarly, the Kenneco Wellness Center explores the use of natural lighting through large amounts of glazing. It also uses a variety of glazing and vegetation to create connections to nature by forming unique outdoor spaces. Looking at Native American architecture, we can see the exploration of unique techniques used for shading, lighting, water reuse systems, and materials. There is a common theme throughout Native American architecture of using natural materials and colors, large amounts of glazing, and connections to the buildings surrounding the site and environment. These buildings often strive for natural ventilation, energy conservation, and strategic shading in order to help preserve their natural lands. Water Petal uses environmental elements such as rain and plants as a way to provide a building with the necessary potable water and properly dispose of gray water into natural environment. These are tactics that will be very useful to consider in our wellness center. The climate of our site calls for large amounts of rain, which can be reused throughout the building. It also consists of vast open land, providing opportunities for gray water to be used as a way to grow landscaping. The apartments in Rasht, Iran, used unique shapes to form an intriguing massing that shapes the building. The facade massing creates beauty, interest, and direct views towards a specific direction. The directional views are supported by large percentages of glazing, shading, and non-shaded areas, as well as roof openings towards the sky and vegetation. These unique shapes also allow for manipulation of light and shadow, as these features of the facade are also acting as shading devices.